Okay, so welcome to our first swivel video. Today we're working on how to find the percent of a number. And our LEQ today is how do you find the percent of a number? Our citation is Mrs. Anderson's video or PowerPoint presentation. Okay, finding the percent of a number. To find the percent of a number, such as finding 60% of 2,000, you can use either of the following methods. So I'm going to give you two methods. You use the one that's easiest for you to use. The first one is when you write the percent as a fraction and then multiply, because you know you can't work with a number if it's in the percent form. So we're going to convert that to a fraction. Or I can write the percent as a decimal and then multiply, whichever you're more comfortable with. So if I write the percent as a fraction, 60% is a fraction, 60 out of 100, because percent means out of 100. So I write that as a fraction. I'm going to simplify that fraction, and then I'm going to find 3/5 of 2,000. The word of in math means multiply. So 3/5 times 2,000, I make that whole number a fraction by making a 1 in the denominator, and I wind up with 6,000 over 5 when I multiply straight across and reduce it to 1,200. If I find 40% of 300 and I want to use the decimal form, I'm going to make 40% with the decimal point and then the 4 in the tenths. Technically, 40% means 40 hundredths, but we all know that a 0 at the end of a decimal number is the same as not having a 0 there. It's still 4/10 because we only say the last whole number place value. So find 4/10 of 300. Again, of means to multiply. So 4/10 times 300 is 120. Okay, so here's an example. Find 5% of 300. You can write 5% as 5 hundredths or 1/20th. Then find 1/20th of 300. 1/20th of 300 is the same as 1/20th times 300. So you write the multiplication example. You do the multiplication. And then you simplify. So 5% of 300 is 15. Here's another example. Find 25% of 180. Write 25% as 25 hundredths, then multiply. This is 2 decimal places, so when you're multiplying, make sure you're lining it up correctly, and you get 900 plus 360, and that winds up being 45 because you had 2 decimal places in one of your factors, so you'll have 2 decimal places in your product. So 25% of 180 is 45. Got it? So let's find the percent of each number. Find 40% of 70. Should be 28. Find 15% of 100. Did you get 15? Find 55% of 160. You can push pause if you need to work it out, because the answer is 88. And find 75% of 280. Press pause to work it out, because the answer is 210. We can use percents that are greater than 100%. So often we tell you 100% is the most you can get, but there are instances where you'll have more than 100%. We can have a decimal place in our percents. Percents that are greater than 100% could be written as improper fractions or mixed numbers or decimals that are greater than 1. So for example, 150% would be written as 150 over 100 or 3 over 2, which simplifies to 1.5 or 1.5. Here's another example. Find 120% of 75. Press pause if you need to work this out. We write 120% as 120 over 100, or 6/5, and then you multiply. And it simplifies to 90. So 120% of 75 is 90. So if I'm asking for a percentage greater than 100, your answer should be greater than the number you're looking for, because you're looking for more than 100% of your number. Find 150% of 28. Will your answer be greater or less than 28? I hope you said greater. You're going to write 150% as 1.5 and then multiply 1.5 and 28. There's one decimal place in your factor, so when you get your product, you're going to have to save one decimal place in your product. You get 420, don't forget the decimal point, your answer is 42. So 150% of 28 is 42. Do you see a relationship between 28 and 42? We know 100% of 28 would be 28. 50% is half. I hope you saw that. Okay, let's try a few more. Find each number. 150% of 20. Go ahead and press pause if you're going to work this out. But you can mentally decide now, is it greater than or less than 20? It's greater than, it's 30. 160% of 35. Press pause to work it out. It's going to be greater than 25. 56. And our last example. Survey results of a number of television hours watched, or number of televisions in the house. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or more than 4 TVs. 2% of people surveyed have no TVs. 9% have 1 TV. 17% have 2 TVs. 23% have 3 TVs. 20% have 4 TVs. 25% have more than 4 TVs. There were 596 people surveyed for this. Refer to the graph. If 275 students took the survey, how many can be expected to have 3 television sets in their house? So, 596 people surveyed total, 275 people fall in that 23% category. Let's see how we find this. Write the percent as a decimal. I'm going to back that up. Each box represents 5%, not 596%. When I get older, I'm going to buy some glasses. 275 people took the whole survey. We're trying to figure out how many of those 23% equals. You write the percent as a decimal and then multiply. So 23% of 275 looks like this. I multiply and get 63.25. You can't have 25 hundredths of a student that has a TV. So we would just round it to 63 students that are expected to have 3 television sets based on that survey. I hope this gets you through the beginning stages of finding a percent of a number, and we'll see you soon.